A Western so brutal it shocked the 1960s. Another so unforgettable Tarantino built an entire movie around it. And the number one pick? It's the one Western you've got to see before you die. Django isn't just a cult classic, it's a cornerstone of the spaghetti Western genre. Even if you've never seen it, you've probably heard of it, thanks to Tarantino borrowing the title for Django Unchained. The original follows Franco Nero as a gunslinger caught in the middle of a brutal clash between Confederate soldiers and Mexican revolutionaries. Sure, by today's standards, its violence might not shock, but back in 1966, it packed a serious punch. Franco Nero shines in the title role, and Sergio Corbucci's direction makes it one of his best, though not quite his greatest, as another entry on this list will show.
Facciamola finita, che ci importa di questo beccamorto? Pensiamo alla donna adesso.
Non sta bene prendersela con le donne.
Cosa hai detto?
Non importa. Quello che importa è che voi state per morire.
This is one of the last truly great old-school westerns. Clear-cut heroes, ruthless villains, and a focus on heroism and sacrifice. It's essentially a condensed, faster-paced version of Seven Samurai, swapping out samurai for gunfighters and trimming down the runtime to a snappier 127 minutes. 7 gunfighters are hired to defend a village from bandits, and the story hits all the classic beats, assembling the team, prepping for battle, and delivering a climactic showdown. What sets the Magnificent Seven apart? Elmer Bernstein's unforgettable score and Eli Wallach's scene-stealing performance as the lead antagonist.
I'm a friend of Harry Locke's. He tells me you're broke.
I'm doing this because I'm an eccentric millionaire.
There's a job for 6 men, watching over a village south of the border.
How big's the opposition?
City guns.
I admire your notion of their odds, mister.
John Ford and John Wayne made some of the most iconic westerns of all time, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is one of their darkest and most thought-provoking. Released years after their masterpiece The Searchers, this film trades graphic violence for moral complexity. Wayne and James Stewart star in a story about power, sacrifice, and the messy truths behind the Old West's myths. It's slower and more downbeat than most American westerns of the time, but it's a haunting, character-driven drama that lingers long after the credits roll. Even Sergio Leone said that this was his favorite John Ford film because it was the only film where he learned about something called pessimism. At its heart, Lonely Are the Brave is about a man who doesn't belong in the modern world. Kirk Douglas plays a cowboy trying to hold on to an Old West lifestyle, even though society has long since moved on. The movie isn't your typical Western. It's set in the 20th century, which might explain why it's so underrated. But that modern-day twist, along with great performances from Douglas, Gina Rowlands, and Walter Matthau, makes it stand out as a unique take on the genre.
Time we took off, too. What do you think, Whiskey?
Sergio Leone leveled up with For a Few Dollars More. It's the second entry in the Dollars trilogy, and it takes everything A Fistful of Dollars did and makes it better. Clint Eastwood is back, but this time Lee Van Cleef joins the party, and honestly, he steals the show. Eastwood's bounty hunter is in it for the cash, but Van Cleef's character has a far more personal vendetta. The two form an uneasy alliance, and the movie builds to a jaw-dropping climax. Packed with action, dark twists, and just the right amount of humor, it's one of the greatest spaghetti westerns ever made. If there's one western that's as quotable as it is iconic, it's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Paul Newman and Robert Redford deliver pure gold as the titular outlaws, two legends playing two legends. The film follows their desperate run from a relentless posse fleeing all the way to Bolivia in a last-ditch attempt to escape their enemies. It's a perfect mix of excitement and charm with a dynamic that hasn't aged a day, even 50 years later. For as great as Django was, Sergio Corbucci made something even better when he directed The Great Silence, a film that's almost certainly the best spaghetti western not directed by Sergio Leone. It's not your typical western. It's dark, snowy, and absolutely unforgiving. Jean-Louis Trintignant plays a gunslinger who's way outnumbered, trying to protect people from Klaus Kinski's bounty hunters. As for Kinski, terrifying doesn't even begin to cover it. He's downright chilling. Morricone's music makes it even heavier, and by the end, you're just sitting there like, well, that was brutal. If The Great Silence is a funeral for hope, The Wild Bunch is a farewell to the Old West itself. This one follows a group of aging outlaws who know their time is running out, so they decide to go out in style, or maybe just in a blaze of glory. Released at the end of the 60s, it feels like the Western genre's last gasp. It was made against a backdrop of real American violence, Vietnam, assassinations, race riots, protests hit by police brutality. Sam Peckinpah explained that he wanted to take the facade of movie violence and open it up, so it's not fun anymore.
Tell me, Mr. Harrigan, how does it feel? Getting paid for it. Getting paid to sit back and hire your killings with the law's arms around you. How does it feel to be so goddamn right?
Good.
You dirty son of a bitch.
How do you top the good, the bad, and the ugly? You probably can't. Sergio Leone wrapped up his Dollars trilogy with this epic, a western, a war film, an adventure, and a dark buddy comedy rolled into one. 3 hours long, perfectly directed, scored to perfection by Morricone, it's got everything. The premise might sound simple, 3 men racing to find buried gold, but it's executed so well it feels monumental. Beautiful, suspenseful, and funny. It's an untouchable masterpiece.
You see, in this world, there's 2 kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig. When?
Ranking the good, the bad, and the ugly second feels like a crime, but Once Upon a Time in the West deserves it. Leone slowed everything down here, fewer gunfights, more tension, and created something massive. The opening scene alone is a masterpiece. Charles Bronson, Henry Fonda, and Claudia Cardinale give unforgettable performances, and the story somehow feels both epic and intimate at the same time. It's the kind of movie you can get completely lost in, and every rewatch just makes it better.